Okay, hear me out. Disney survival horror game. Yeah, I thought this would be kind of fun as an idea that just kind of rattled around in my head today of like, what if Disney did a survival horror game? Now, I know obviously they're never going to do that, and also the idea I had is not what you're expecting. You're probably expecting like some creepypasta shit, like a Disney After Dark, or like you're seeing twisted versions of like characters walk around characters in the park and they're all like demonic and eat people. You're not. This is not that. This would be usually whenever I try to do ideas like this, I always try to go in the confines of what you'd expect from the show or from what you'd expect from the company itself. Now there was a close to Disney horror game with that was canonized by Disney where I can't remember the name of that game, but it's where the Disney's won and where the Disney villains won, and like there's some fucked up stuff like. Alice walked around with no head because the queen got her wish of killing killing Alice. There's also like Stromboli one, and it was weird. Like I know that's a canon game, I just can't. Like I think it's Villains Unleashed or something. So we're gonna do so, and also I'm pretty sure if Michael Eisner was still in control of Disney, this would be a game he'd probably want to go for. Of seeing like how popular games like BioShock and Resident Evil are. I'm pretty sure at some point either he had that idea or would have done that idea if Eisner was still in charge. So we're going to talk about this game, and first off, let's go by some ground rules. This is going to be a survival horror game, but not to an M-rated extent. Like I said, the furthest I think Disney Interactive would take anything would be T-rated, and even then that would be pushing it. So this game would be, like I said, a survival horror game, but it wouldn't be like gory horror. It would be like Disney horror, but with just a little more of a spice to it. Like just a little more of a spice to it and a little more of a bite. So I'm going to talk about the game, like my idea for the game, the story of it, the characters you interact with, and the world, as well as like how I do the gaming mechanics. So this would be very much reminiscent of like BioShock. And actually, a lot of the inspiration for this idea came from BioShock, where you wake up, you play this character called the Dreamer, and the Dreamer is a character who is woken up in a city, a dilapidated city, filled with the Disney villains. Now, to preference, this is not the villain. We're not going to have any TV villains. I know usually I do have the TV villains, but again, if we're going to preface, like if this was an actual studio game, this would be a game that would focus on the movie villains, obviously. But if I did have any say, I would have like cameo, like little Easter eggs for all the cartoon level, like the cartoon series villains, like little Easter eggs for the other ones, like Bill Cipher's image paint, like spray painted on the wall, or you have like Lord Dominator's helmet sitting on a desk, or Toffee's finger in a jar, like his missing finger in a jar. And maybe like you go into a factory and you find like all these ruined innators, or like Doofenshmirtz's innators. Maybe Don Carnage's sword. That would be another cool one. That'd be another, like little fun Easter eggs for the cartoon villains, just to say, hey, they're somewhere in here. But no, the story is that this is filled with, this dilapidated city is filled with the Disney movie villains, and each villain has taken over, kind of like in Arkham City, an area of this city. But it's not a city, it's a prison. It's a prison for all of these major villains. Someone has gathered up all the villains across the worlds and dumped them here and put them in confinement. So now the villains are like confined food and, like they all have their own territories now, and they're all vying for control, very much like Arkham City. Like I said, BioShock meets Arkham City. That's the best, or like the Arkham games would be the best way to describe this. Now, the whole story is you as the Dreamer, is that you've woken up in this city and you don't know what's going on, but everyone knows you. Like, all the villains know you and have sent out like their flunkies to find you, but you have no memory of this. So more or less you encounter an old woman who is essentially basically telling you, hey, come on, wake up, you gotta go. And basically tells you, the Dreamer holds the key to everything. And she basically tells you that the main villain of the person who brought all these villains together has more or less brought them together to imprison them all for eternity in this, because I would have you would walk to an edge and look like you would just see an endless void, and you just walk right back into the city. It's just, this city is like a void, and it's in this void, and even if you walk somewhere, it'd either be like a void you'd walk in and walk back out of, but other times I would have it maybe, I also think maybe it's just a sprawling city, again, going into that Arkham Knight kind of thing, where it's just this huge city. Anyway, so, what was I gonna say? Anyway, so this old woman, your guide, who calls herself your godmother, who calls herself your godmother, and basically tells you, hey, you are in serious danger. You are this thing called the Dreamer, and the Dreamer basically holds, everyone believes you hold this key to escaping the city or freeing us. And the villain that brought them all together is this being called the Jailer. And the Jailer is this unknown villain who brought everyone here. He anyone knows is the only people who have any idea of what the Jailer is that he was this guy who came in, snatched everyone out of their worlds and threw them here and condemned them for their sins and told them, hey, you're just going to live your lives out here for the rest of your lives. That's what we're dealing with here. So the godmother basically tells you that, the only way we can find a way out of here together, Dreamer, you don't have many friends here, but essentially what you can do is find little shards of your memory, because people saw you fall out of the Jailer's home. He lives in this sky castle, this floating fortress above the city, keeping in constant eye. So everyone saw the Dreamer get shot out from the fortress, and now everyone believes that's got to be the way to get to the fortress, so we can all kill the Jailer. So more or less, you have to find little pieces of your memory that are locked up in crystals and are owned by different villains. So every area of these villains are owned by territories. Scar lives in a dilapidated zoo, and his henchmen are, of course, the hyenas, and a sub-boss would be Zira. You would also have he'd also have other villains working for him, I had the idea of Merryweather from Zootopia, not Merryweather, Bellwether, Miss Bellwether, as his number two. She's so cruel, but she's his kind of his Wesley to his Kingpin. That's the best way to describe it. It's the Wesley to his Kingpin, and you have Ka as well. Ka also serves as a lieutenant. That's kind of the idea I had. Scar lives in a dilapidated zoo. Ursula lives in a aquarium, lives in a ruined aquarium. Hades lives in a big nightclub, whereas Oogie Boogie lives in a rundown casino filled with traps. Hook lives in the harbor. Frollo lives in a cathedral. What was the other ones? Maleficent lives in an old museum that she's renovated and covered in her thorns. And yeah, so each villain you have to encounter has their own sub bosses and whatever. And the thing is I wouldn't have it at first you'd have to level up, so you'd have to do a lot of sneaking and a lot of hiding, because a lot of these bosses a lot of these characters will kill you. Yeah, of course, I mentioned, the hyenas would be foes you would have to fight, but other ones you would have to fight in Scar's level would be rogue lionesses that were under Zira. You'd also have to fight Ka as a boss. You'd have to fight crocodiles and stuff like that. A lot of just nasty shit. Hades, I wouldn't say you'd have to fight the Titans, but you would fight the Hydra in his level. Like, you would fight the Hydra as a boss, and yeah. So throughout this, the other major thing throughout each level is that you would find little like notes or like kind of like Riddler trophies or something, or video recordings, you know, like those little like trophies you can find in any game. And basically, it's these little notes and bio pieces of like these notes and diary pieces of each villain, and basically telling their side of the story. And you as a character can either like spare their lives or drain their power from them, because basically your godmother teaches you a power of like energy of magic draining, and each character does have some semblance of magic to them, so you can drain the magic out of them, or you can just leave them be. Like, you can just leave them be, so you have that good evil choice. So let me just cut to the chase, because you've already probably figured this out. So final boss, Maleficent would be the second to final boss, but your final boss would not be the jailer. Your final boss would be Chernabog. And reason being the jailer's not your final boss is because that you are the jailer. The jailer is actually... the jailer was actually a being created by Merlin. And Merlin, like Sword in the Stone Merlin, so Maleficent basically drops the bomb on you. She's the second to final boss, so she basically drops the knowledge bomb on you that what happened was that you, the jailer, were a creation of Merlin, because he saw all this evil going around in the universe. I mean, throughout each worlds, and thought it best, like, there needs to be a holding place for all this evil so good can survive. So you, as the jailer, went out, captured all these villains, and dumped them here, in this little like, just endless city that was created, and that would be it. Like, this would be their prison for all eternity. But, however, during the time as the jailer, you basically got so sympathetic and so, like Stockholm syndrome from taking these people and basically upsetting the cosmic balance of the universe, that you felt so ashamed that you more or less just destroyed your mind and like wiped your mind clean, because like at the same time you as a character, the jailer basically thinks, you know, maybe I should give these guys the benefit of the doubt, and maybe I was too harsh. But on the other hand, like, I need to see for myself. So the jailer wiped his memory, dropped himself down there, and dropped himself into the city and became the Dreamer. Just to, like, get, like, a bird's eye view and, like, a new perspective of the villains. Now, Chernabog, why he's the final boss is because Chernabog had been, throughout the whole story, getting back to the Godmother. The Godmother is, if you think it's, you know, the evil queen, it's not. It's Gothel. Gothel has basically been losing, since she doesn't have the sun drop with her, she's withering away and getting older. And it turns out she's been in commune with Chernabog this whole time, and when she tells you, hey, we'll get your memories back and all that, and, you know, you can find a way to stop the jailer, really she's opening up a gateway to let Chernabog in and more or less just wreck everything and take all the power from the villains for himself. So Chernabog is the final boss fight, and at the end of it, you have a choice. You can either choose choose to free all of these villains after getting all their perspectives, and basically let the universe balance itself out, or leave them here. Like, just abandon the villains here, and essentially, if you do that, what you're doing is that you're basically letting more evil, like just worse evil than them, run rampant throughout the universe. But if you let them go, they're just going to be more pissed off and more angry that this happened. Sorry about that. But yeah, you're basically left with this huge moral quandary of, you let them go, they're going to be pissed off and probably wreak a lot more, wreck just whole levels of evil onto their respective worlds. But if you keep them here, are you any better? Are you any better? And also on top of that, if you leave them here, that's opening the door to even worse villains. Actually, no, it's not even like, are you better than them? That's not even the case, because this isn't goddamn Steven Universe. what you're basically doing is like leaving the door open for even worse evils to enter to enter each world and potentially upset the balance of good and evil. So to even a higher degree, because basically I wanted to have this scene where the jailer explains to himself in a recording, like, if you let them go, they're going to be angry, but they can be managed. They might kill people, they might take a whole more lives, but good can stop them. But if you leave them here, the balance of power is going to tip. And when it does, the universe tends to correct itself in a drastic way. So if you keep them here, the balance will shift and something worse might come. It's kind of like, the best way to describe it is very much like when the Jedi Order had grown to a great power, so great in power, and that's why Palpatine was so powerful as Darth Sidious, as a Sith Lord, because, the light had gotten so powerful. In response, the Force created a dark side user that was strong enough to stop them and balance the scales back. Like we all, yeah, I'm still not over Rise of Skywalker, but that's kind of like the balance of the Force. Like originally what Rey was meant to be to counter Kylo Ren's evil, the Force would create Rey and that's why she was so powerful. Not because of bloodlines and, Palpatine shooting his load in someone, but whatever. Anyway, so you guys, so there you go. That is my idea for a Disney survival horror game, something we will never fucking get in our lives. So, but you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think of the idea of a Disney survival horror game? How would you do it? How would you make it? And what would the story be? And what kind of characters would you want to use? Anyway, just comment below, let me know. And as always, if you haven't already, go check out my Patreon in the link in the description below. And greatly appreciate it. And other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.